All right, let's dive right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to deconstruct exactly how you build wealth. Look, if you spend literally any time online, you are probably bombarded by some incredibly polarized financial advice. It feels like everyone out there is either trying to sell you some secret to overnight riches, or they're wagging a finger at you, telling you to stop buying coffee for the next half century. Well, today, we are cutting through all of that noise. We're going to look at a totally realistic roadmap, one backed by clear math and strategy, to completely change your financial life.
Picture this. It's a random Sunday afternoon, right? You're just relaxing on the couch, scrolling through your phone, and boom, you see yet another post. How I became a millionaire in 18 months, or turn $1,000 into $1 million with this one weird trick. And for a split second, you ask yourself, wait, am I missing something? Because you work hard, you make a decent income, but when you check your own bank account, it definitely doesn't look like you're making millionaire progress. You really start wondering if building actual wealth is even possible for normal people, or if everyone online is just totally exaggerating.
So when we look for answers, almost all the financial advice out there falls into two totally extreme buckets. On one side, you've got the get-rich-quick crowd. They're pitching crypto secrets, day trading systems, and drop shipping hacks. It's super high risk, often misleading, and honestly, it usually just leaves people burned. But then look at the other side. You have the super slow advice. This is that traditional path telling you to just invest a tiny bit for 40 years. And hey, maybe you'll be comfortable when you finally hit 65. Neither of those options are very inspiring, are they? One feels like a flat-out scam, and the other just feels like an endless slog.
But here's the thing. There is a third option, a reality that most people completely miss. Building serious wealth doesn't actually take 40 years. But let's be real, it also doesn't happen in 6 months. The absolute sweet spot is 5 years. 5 years is actually enough time to completely transform your financial life, but only if you focus on the right things. So, let's uncover exactly what those right things are. Not the flashy, unrealistic version, but the real version that actually works.
Okay, Section 1. Why saving alone fails.
You might think saving money is the whole secret to getting wealthy, right? And while it's incredibly important, saving alone is kind of like trying to fill a massive swimming pool using a teaspoon. You're putting water in, sure, but it is going to take an absolute eternity. Let's look at the actual math on this to see why. Let's say you save $300 per month. First off, I want to be super clear. That is a fantastic habit. According to data from the Federal Reserve, nearly 40% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money. So if you're putting away $300 a month, you are already way ahead of the curve. But look at how the math plays out. $300 a month equals $3,600 a year. Over our 5-year timeline, that totals exactly $18,000. Now, even if you took that $18,000, invested it, and pulled in a solid 8% annual return, you'd really only end up with roughly $21,000 to $22,000 at the end of 5 years. Is that good? Absolutely, it's great. But is it going to completely change your life and let you quit your job or buy your dream house? Probably not. It's safe, but it's really slow.
Which brings us to step 1, increase your income.
Listen, early on in your financial journey, your earning ability is your absolute most powerful asset. Think of your income like the engine of a car. If your engine is tiny, it literally doesn't matter how incredible your steering is, how aerodynamic the car is, it's never going to go fast. You desperately need more horsepower. When you increase your income, everything else becomes instantly easier. Saving is easier, investing is easier, and debt disappears way faster. Just look at this side-by-side comparison. We have person A who makes $3,000 a month and saves 10% of it, which is $300. Now look at person B. They spend their first 2 years aggressively improving their skills, maybe negotiating a raise, or building a side hustle. Their income jumps to $5,000 a month. They are still only saving that exact same 10%, but now that equals $500 a month. Over our 5-year timeline, simply having that larger engine results in a $12,000 difference in pure savings. The math there is undeniable.
Now I hear you. You're probably thinking, well, it's super easy to just say make more money, but actually doing it is hard. And I get it. Income growth does not happen overnight. But most of us drastically underestimate how much our income can grow in 5 years. 5 years is plenty of time to learn a high-income skill or completely change careers. In fact, if we look at data straight from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, workers who switch jobs see salary increases of 10 to 20% on average. If you do that strategically just twice in 5 years, your income engine completely transforms.
Moving on to step 2, avoiding lifestyle inflation. Because here's the catch. Increasing your income is really only half the battle. As soon as you make more money, you run face first into a trap.
You finally get that hard-earned raise, and suddenly you feel like you deserve a better apartment, a nicer car, maybe some more expensive dinners. Before you know it, your income has skyrocketed, but your bank account is sitting exactly where it was 5 years ago. There's actually a fascinating scientific reason for why we do this. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. It's basically the psychological process where your brain very quickly gets used to any lifestyle improvement you make. Think about the last time you bought something major, like a car. For the first few weeks, it feels incredible, right? But after about 3 months, it just feels like your car. It becomes your new normal, and suddenly your brain is looking around for the next expensive upgrade. That right there is hedonic adaptation actively stealing your wealth.
So how do we actually beat our own psychology? Well, enter the save half rule. This is how you lock in your savings rate. Every single time your income increases, you make an immediate non-negotiable rule to save at least half of that new money. For example, if you negotiate a $1,000 per month raise, you automatically set up an investment transfer for $500 of it before you even see it. And the other $500? You are completely free to enjoy that and upgrade your life. It's the perfect balance. It plugs the leak in your finances while still letting you actually enjoy the fruits of your hard work.
All right, step 3, building compounding momentum.
Once you've bumped up that income and wrangled your spending, you're going to have a steady pile of savings. And you know what? Those saved dollars need a job. You can't just leave them under a mattress or sitting in a checking account, losing value to inflation. Historically, one of the most reliable ways to put that money to work is through broad market investing. For example, if we look at the S&P 500, which tracks the largest companies in the US, it has returned roughly 10% annually on average over the last century. Now, obviously, the market goes up and down in the short term. That's just a given. But over longer periods, consistently buying into broad market assets has been one of the absolute most effective ways to build wealth ever discovered.
Let's see how that 10% potential pairs up with our 5-year timeline. Suppose you followed steps 1 and 2 and you've managed to invest $1,000 a month. Over 5 years, you have personally put in $60,000 of your own hard-earned money. But thanks to the growth of those investments in the market, that balance could easily become $70,000 or more. You've essentially created an entirely new stream of money just working for you in the background.
Now, having 70 grand is amazing, don't get me wrong, but the real magic here, it's not what happens at the end of those 5 years. It's the momentum you've created. Reaching this financial baseline means your next 5 years aren't going to look anything like the first 5. The growth is going to accelerate exponentially because now you have a large sum of money compounding on itself right alongside your monthly deposits.
Let's make this super concrete. I want to share a great story of a guy in his early 20s who was just totally stressed about money. He had tiny savings and his income barely covered his rent. But he committed to this exact 5-year playbook. He completely ignored the risky crypto trades. He just focused on keeping his expenses low, aggressively leveling up his skills to double his income, and investing absolutely everything he could. 5 years later, just by being disciplined, he had over $80,000 invested. But even more importantly, his income was twice as high, which meant his next 5 years were primed to just explode. He built real compounding momentum.
So let's lock this all in. Here is your realistic roadmap to completely changing your financial life. Number 1, increase your income. Treat your earning ability as your most powerful asset. Number 2, protect yourself from lifestyle inflation. Remember that save half rule. Number 3, invest consistently in long-term assets that grow over time. Give your dollars a job. And number 4, stay consistent for the full 5 years. Do not get distracted by those shiny get-rich-quick objects online. Always keep this in mind. Wealth doesn't come from one brilliant decision. It comes from hundreds of small decisions repeated consistently. You don't need to win the lottery, and you definitely don't need to find the next viral crypto coin. You just need a better strategy and the patience to let it work. Because 5 years from now is going to arrive whether you prepare for it or not. The time is going to pass anyway.
Which brings us to our final question. I want you to really ask yourself, where do you want your finances to be exactly 5 years from today? Do you want to still feel stuck and frustrated every time you look at your bank account? Or do you want to have built the kind of unstoppable momentum that makes the next decade of your life completely different? That future starts with the decisions you make right now. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to start your 5-year clock today.